Have you got your tickets to the largest music festival in Eastern Kentucky? The Alley Fest is returning Labor Day weekend. That's August 29th, 30th, and 31st, and this year it's bigger and better than ever before. On Friday, see them Dirty Vandals, Zoe Howard, John Foster, Slater Nelly, and TikTok sensation Maddox Batson. Saturday features Brady Robinson, Troy Burchett, Jordan Smart, Wicked Peace, Jack Marion, Tyler Hood, Rachel Bayman, Luke Trimble, Abby Hamilton, Grayson Jenkins, American Idol winner Noah Thompson, and Nicholas Jamerson and the Morning Jays. And on Sunday, we have Brady McCown, Emma Hansman, John Thomas Moore, Moonlight Mile, Braden Mullins, Corduroy Brown, B. Taylor, our buddies the Kentucky Headhunters, Cole Chaney, and 3-time Grammy Award winner Old Crow Medicine Show. Alley Fest has a new home at Archer Park in the Star City, Prestonsburg, Kentucky. This year, the Alley Fest offers on-site camping options including primitive camping, car camping, and RV spots. All camping is walking distance to the showgrounds. Tickets and camping passes are going fast, so get yours today and don't miss this unbelievable lineup. For tickets, VIP passes, camping passes, and more information, visit www.alleyfestky.com. Welcome to Behind the Shed. On today's episode, the sparks really fly. We're joined by legendary record producer, rodeo cowboy, label architect, and industry icon, Eddie Kilroy. This is the man who helped build Playboy Records into a Nashville powerhouse, who wrangled Jerry Lee Lewis in the studio and launched Mickey Gilley into stardom. Sitting down with host Harold Shedd, Russ Sabatson, and Wade Smith, this episode is more than a conversation. It's a walk through the back alleys and neon-lit highways of country music history. With stories you won't find in any textbook, they talk about wild sessions, lost deals, label politics, and the instinct it takes to know when a song is the song. So buckle up, this is country music's behind the scenes, as told by the legends who lived it. Let's get to it.
I want you to know what an honor it is to have you here with us.
You know what an honor it is
and I'm gonna
be with you.
Briefly tell you that I met Eddie in 1959 in engineering school in Dallas, Texas. Wow. And he was doing music and was a real cowboy. He's a real cowboy, and he's rodeoed and done all of the stuff cowboys do.
Wow.
And made some of the best records that we'll get him to tell us about.
Yeah,
but
man.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I love you, and you're my buddy.
I've loved you forever, and you didn't let me know you were coming to Nashville. And
Well, I didn't know at the time.
well, I mean, I got there some years ahead of you, not many, but I was in Faron Young's building on Division Street, and my office overlooked Division. The Hall of Fame is over there across the road. And I see this lanky guy walking down the street. And I said, oh my God, that's Harold Shedd. Harold! And his little fat legs went trip, 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 trip down the stairs. And I said, what are you doing here? He said, well, I've got this little studio back here. I'm messing with this little band. And I said, oh, good, good. And of course, the little band turned out to be that little band that made $5 jillion and sold that many records too. So I was so glad to see him, so glad he was in Nashville. My eyes did pop when that's Harold. I got to go catch up with him.
Yeah.
And then we started doing some catching up, and we started making some records. You were making some big records, and when you finished with Alabama, I mean, they took off like a rocket ship. And I can't recall, I guess there has been, but I can't recall in my tenure in Nashville, any one person having that long a run with an artist or a group like you have with Alabama.
Yeah.
That was a long time.
Yeah. Well, we worked together for a decade.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And
there's always change. I remember I was flying accidentally on a plane with a guy from down in Texas that I'd known since I was young, Huey Moe. And
I know that name.
Yep, everybody knows Huey. Everybody's had a bad operation with a situation. And I'm sitting with him on a plane. I think we were coming back from an R&R convention in Atlanta. And I said, well, how you doing with Freddie? He said, oh, brother. He still had that Cajun talk. Freddie not good. I got problems with him. He said, every now and then the teacher thinks he knows more than the professor. And now he's come to me after I've given him all these hit records, and he tells me, Huey, I think I need to get an accountant. And I told him, I said, Freddie, you got the best accountant in the world. He's my accountant. And I'm thinking, poor old Freddie still drawing that $200 a week salary.
Yeah, man.
Best accountant in the world is my accountant.
Yeah, man.
I didn't mean to get on a Huey story, but
That's a great story. Yeah,
this is obvious because these guys were like peas in a pod, Shelby, Singleton, and Huey. And it's unfortunate about Shelby because I worked for Shelby for a little while. And he had an incredible instinct for the record industry. I mean, he was really, really good.
Yeah.
But he was rogue. I mean, he just went rogue.
Yeah.
And he channeled that. If he channeled that talent that he had, it would have been wonderful. But he had cut this track on Jeannie C. Riley, Before the Next Teardrop Falls, and Jeannie couldn't sing it. It was not designed for that Billy Goat deal. And, so he put Freddie's voice on it and put it out. And man, that record took off big. Wow. And all of a sudden, Pig hears the record on the radio. And he said, I played on that record, but that's not the same singer. Well, that blew the whole lid off, so they had to go back and they had to pay all the players over again, bring it up to date. Old Pig in his ear.
Yeah, man.
Did you use Pig much?
Yes.
Wasn't he an amazing piano player?
Great,
Yeah,
great.
While everybody's taking numbers, it's just registering in his mind.
Yes, yes.
You know, he was an incredible player and a fun guy. We can tell me some stories because we have so many.
Yeah. Well, we want you to tell us about your days that you ran Playboy Records when they moved to Nashville.
Man.
What a treat that was, and how interesting it happened. And why it happened, I don't know, except, I'm a strong believer.
They were looking for talent.
Well, I'm a strong believer in God.
Yes.
And so my little receptionist, I have my own little deal going, was very little. She said, there's a guy on the phone, Tom Mookie or something like that, from Playboy. And I said, what? So I took the call, and the guy's name ended up being Tom Takayoshi. He was a Japanese, American Japanese. And he said, we're kind of interested in doing something country. And as we check around, your name comes up. And I thought, yeah, Playboy country. And I said, and then he asked a question that we really don't have a good answer for. How do we get into country music? Well, I said, well, you start with a hit record.
Good answer.
And it just so happens that I had just left Jerry Lee Lewis. And Jerry had gone into this revival of rock and roll. And he and Chuck Berry and Pat Domino were going out as a package and all that. And Jerry was hooping and hollering and doing his usual intake of energy. And so I called Gilley and I said, Gilley, I said, now's the time to make your move, son. I said, Jerry, Mickey had been making a living for 30, 40 years just doing Jerry Lee Lewis music because it was infectious music. I knew it was. And so I called him, I said, we got a hit record for you called Roomful of Roses. We put it out, and it was myself and an 18-year-old girl, first job out of high school, and that was Playboy Records in Nashville.
Wow.
The two of us. And I had come out of doing record promotion. So I would run do something in the studio, get back on the phone, and call the 59 Billboard stations, and the record went #1. Wow. And
59 back
Wow.
then.
Yeah, 59.
Wow.
That's all we had. And then we did the album, and it went #1. So, make long story short, that's a good way to start a new label.
Boy, no
Wow.
kidding.
How quick did all that happen?
Several months.
Wow.
Not too long. Then I hired a promotion man that no one wanted by the name of Nick Hunter.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I taught Nick how to do promotion. And he turned out to be a good promotion
Yeah,
man.
he
He really did.
Yes.
Interesting thing is, he said, he came in one day and he's wringing his hands, and his entire wardrobe was gimme shirts, if you remember, just
Yeah.
some kind of T-shirt. And he said, we had about 6 or 7 #1s in a row. He said, well, Gilley's record stopped at 4, lost its bullet. Ain't gonna go #1. I said, heck you say. You take half the stations, I'll take the other half. And I said, it'll go #1. And I started calling radio stations, and similar to a situation you were in one time with Achy Breaky Heart.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
what I was thinking of.
I was calling the radio stations, and we jumped from 4 with no bullet to #1. And Nick came in, he said, you taught me dedication. I said, no, I taught you don't give up. Just keep hanging,
Don't
hanging
give
on.
up.
But that was the Playboy deal, and it was kind of like a child to me. I signed Bobby Borchers. We had a couple of top 10 records, and he was another case.
Now, was that the first release of I'm the Only Hell My Mama Ever
No,
Raised?
Paycheck had that. Borchers and Mac Vickery wrote that.
They wrote it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
And they were writing a lot of good stuff.
But it was
yeah.
not a single
On Borchers?
on Playboy.
No. I never did do it on Borchers. It
Okay.
wasn't a single. It was on Columbia. And it was a really good record. They wrote some good songs together. They wrote Tanya's record. What was that record? They wrote Jamestown Perry,
Yeah.
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 Tanya, and they wrote a couple of other things. And gosh, boy, did Mac hit a lick with the Fireman with George Strait.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
good. You know, the Playboy thing was interesting, and then it got really confusing. First of all, let me tell you about Playboy. I spent a lot of time at the mansion because I was producing the boss's girlfriend. So
I remember her.
Yeah, just stayed out there quite a bit. And Hefner was one of the nicest people that I ever met in my life. Take away anything moralistic or anything about his lifestyle or whatever. As far as being a nice human guy, he was.
Wow.
I watched him a lot out there because I would go out maybe and stay 3 or 4 days about every 2 or 3 months. And he was, had the butlers and everybody around, but if the doorbell rang, he would always get up and greet the people, you know, and
Really?
make them welcome. And he was always a very good host. Oh, a great story. Hank Jr.'s, Hank Jr. and I were close from my MGM days. He was between labels, and so I really wanted Junior. So let's go to LA. So we fly out to LA, and really got wild because the first night there, we stayed in the hotel, Gene Autry's old Continental Hotel, and went to a movie, and we got really wild. Next day, we have lunch with Hefner at the mansion. And we're having a fine dinner, and Hefner was being so cordial. Hefner didn't like country music necessarily, but he was charming. But Junior had the best line. When we drove out, he said, "Well, if I don't sign with you, I guess it'll be the last time I'm here." Which turned out to be true. He went with curve. I don't blame him. But we had the Playboy thing was amazing because when country radio got the label with the bunny on it, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
To have,
Yeah.
Playboy involved in country. So it was kind of a door opener to start with. And then we had little pink slips, and program directors or music directors, whoever we needed, I'd send them a little pink slip, and it said lifetime subscription to Playboy magazine. So they liked that.
Yeah.
And then Hef was kind enough to come in for some of our functions. And then he would bring some of the bunnies in and kind of decorate the place.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of fun at Playboy.
Wow.
And then it really got to the point, even though it never lost money, we always made money, it was not enough to get their attention, to keep their attention. And they sold it to CBS. And it really bothered me because it was kind of like a child I had birthed and raised it, and eventually brought it up to that huge number of 6 employees, which I had a great time with a personal friend of ours, Jerry Bradley.
Yeah.
Jerry had 300 people, counting field people, all of RCA, the monster company, they could really get the wheels going. And I'd call him, we got the advanced numbers on Friday, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Friday.
And I'd get the numbers and I'd call him and I'd say, hey, Pride can't be number 1 next week. Gilley's number 1.
Wow.
Picked on him all the time. But Jerry was a good friend.
Yeah.
A good guy. But we had the Playboy deal, it was wonderful. It was a chance I never, another story about Hefner. Okay, there's women everywhere, and they're all 10s. And he had a license, zoo license, because he had 7 acres, which is a lot of land in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And he loved animals. He had macaws in the trees and monkeys in the trees, and everything was there. And I asked Barbie one time, I said, we were sitting out by the grotto, and I said, why do these animals never leave here? And she said, would you leave paradise? And I said, no. But I loved dogs. And he had 2 Old English sheepdogs. And he had a full-time animal care, 2 people that took care of all the animals. So they were meticulously groomed, and, the Old English sheepdogs are rather beautiful, in my opinion. And he had a male and a female. Well, I'd stay out on the front lawn and play with them. Spent a lot of time with them and enjoyed being with them. And time went by, and my secretary said, I need to go to the airport and pick up a package. Well, that was before FedEx and UPS were doing that stuff. And we were doing counter to counter. And I said, okay. And she comes back with it almost makes you teary-eyed, a little Old English puppy.
Oh, that's so cool.
And F had sent it to me for Valentine's Day.
Way to go.
And I named her Kilroy's Valentine's Playmate.
Wow.
And she was a Playboy colors at that time, black and white. And it sounds crazy, but when somebody come in the office, I could tell if she didn't like them, I may not want to do business with them, because dogs have an innate personality, a feeling of people. And she didn't like Buddy. She had a thing about Buddy killing. And he waved me down on the street, and I stopped, and she was in the car with me. And he stuck his hand in to say hello. And she jumped at him so bad his toupee turned sideways.
That's funny. That's funny.
But it was I could tell you all these things happened that were funny.
How many years was Playboy in Nashville? How many years did y'all do that?
I haven't been drinking long. 7 years.
Wow. Well, it seems like it was a lot longer than that.
It could have been 8.
Yeah.
And when they sold, I still had 3 years on a contract, and there was no negotiation. It was just go, and we'll pay you off, and do whatever you want. They were just nice people. That's when Bowen came up. Bowen came to town. This is getting up. You want to hear some Bowen stories?
Go.
Whatever you want to say.
Yeah, man.
Bowen came to town. We had worked together at Warner Brothers in 1964. And he was doing Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin and that bunch out there. And he was working for Reprise, which was Frank Sinatra's label,
Right.
Distributed by Warner Brothers. And Bowen was there, and he was doing them. And then he really blew a good deal because he started that label, Amos Records. And he had Kenny Rogers in the first edition, and he had somebody else out there. Mm-hmm. But Bowen became a very, very bad alcoholic, and he just totally drank that label away. Went to Arkansas, married a girl named Dixie. I call her Dixie One because he had two Dixies.
That's right.
And he got into smoking pot to get off of drinking. And he came to town with an old black Buick with the fenders flopping, all rusted out. And he came up and he said, I'm just coming here to get some things going, and I just got tired of LA, He'd run his string in LA is what happened. And he moved to Nashville. And he had a rap. He could do a good rap, and Nashville at that time were not into platinum records and so forth and so on, so they were very impressed with the guy that had done Dean Martin.
Sure.
And he used the hell out of that. But make a long story short, I had that second floor of that building, and I had about 6 offices open. And I said, let's take one of these offices up here and work out of here. And he did. And then he started hanging out over at Tom Paul Glazer's and them. And trying to think and put it all in line. He and Mike Maitland were big buddies in the old days, and I'd worked for Mike too. And he said, hey, I've come up with a deal. This is after Playboy was over. He said, let's go to MCA as co-presidents. I said, I beg your pardon? He said, I'll talk to Mike and we can do that deal. And I said, well, okay. Well, Dixie 2 was in the hospital in Galveston. And Bowen's contract came in, my contract came in while he was down there. I said, I'll just fly down, we'll go over these contracts. And I went down to Galveston. We went Holiday Inn, one on a double bed, I'm on the other. And the contracts were right, verbatim, everything's perfect, everything's wonderful. I go back to Nashville. And we had a thing going about if a name artist like Haggard or Loretta were working at a special date or something, one of us would go, just out of respect. So he came in one day and he said, only there about 3 months. I said, he said, I'm leaving tomorrow. I said, oh, where are you going? And he said, no, I'm leaving the company. I said, boy, we signed these contracts. He said, no, you signed yours. I didn't sign mine. I lost all respect for him a little bit later on, but this was what really started it. Dick Frank was a lawyer. Mm-hmm. This was in the days when Dick Frank got everybody a job. He did that big Gallico thing with Al Gallico and the whole deal. Well, Elektra wanted to do country, and they wanted to start with Mel Tillis. And the only way that Bowen would take the job is if they signed Mel Tillis. This is through Dick Frank, the little winding road there. So Bowen got Tillis the job over there. Signed him, cut a few records on him, and dropped him. I thought, this is the reason you got the job is because Tillis got you the job through Dick Frank. And then he went somewhere else. But Bowen just left a trail of what I consider ethical atrocities. Yep. It was like, and deals like crazy. But he was, and we did some things together. I admitted after that a few records. And finally I told him, I said, I can't work with you anymore. I said it became Kilroy, Bowen, Kilroy, kind of synonymous. And he had done so many things to people that I didn't want to be associated and be part of the deal. So
Boy, that's a big history. I've often wondered about that.
Yeah.
I was new back then, so
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
he could play things, but it came to being when he went over to Capitol. I loved it. You remember, all of us remember, that we got paid our side money. I'm talking about producers. The same applied to an artist. We got paid our side money. Then we got our royalties, right? But we didn't get paid our royalties till after they had recouped
That's
the
right.
expenses, right? Okay. Well, the same worked with an artist. Well, the artist had already paid for the record through the recoup deal, but they still belonged to X label, whatever he worked for. Well, when it came time to Garth did this, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't have anything against him, just not a huge fan of it. But he did this for the industry. He went and said, I'm not re-signing. I want all the masters I paid for. I want to own my masters. And theoretically, and obviously he did pay for them out of his royalties. The company did not pay for them at the end.
Right.
Yeah, so they were his. He got that. Then he was already hot, and Bowen went over there, and Bowen decided to revive a career that was already running 1,000 miles an hour on top, you know. So he starts this rap with Garth Brooks, and Garth Brooks calls L.A. and said, Bowen goes or I don't resign. So all of a sudden, Bowen's health failed. And he said, I'm retiring. I have some health problems. Garth had his ass run off.
Yep. I remember that part well.
Yeah. So, and I guess he just kind of took his money and faded into the sunset somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He and Dickie Lee and myself had thyroid cancer the same year. And Dickie had it first and called me and told me to go to this one doctor at Vanderbilt. Bowen went to Mayo, and he had problems quite a while after that. He should have stayed right there at Vanderbilt. Yeah. But being the slick California dude that he was, he knew a little better. He better go to Mayo, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not running him down. It's just that he did not do the record business as I learned it when we got there. Mm-hmm. It was different, you know. Mm-hmm. It was more of a, I'm not going to really screw him around. He's too good a friend. Mm-hmm. You know, we had too many beers together. We hung out, and it was a grand time. I think so many of us were so blessed to be in Nashville when Nashville was Nashville.
Yeah.
You know, and God, did I do stupid things? I mean, I did a whole show one time on Cowboy Stupid Things. And it was a long show.
A long show.
Yeah. I'm the only guy in the world that turned down a Loretta Lynn record. I had written this song not long after I got into Nashville. Wrote it back at the filling station in Liberty, Texas. We'd get together and play music, you know. Everybody knew 3 chords on a guitar. And Kitty Wells was the only female singer, and she was real big. So I wrote this song that was just absolutely spectacular for Kitty Wells. If a Kitty Wells song could be spectacular. And I took it to Owen Bradley. And I said, Mr. Bradley, I said, I've got this song for Kitty Wells. And he said, well, this one you can just take the guitar and play it, you know. And I sang him the song for Kitty Wells. He said, I really like that, but I'd like to cut it on this new girl I'm signing. And I said, Mr. Bradley, with all due respect, because Owen was really nice to me always, I said, if you can't cut it on Kitty, I'd just soon you not do it. Well, the new girl was
Loretta.
Loretta.
Oh, man. Yeah, man.
Well, but I was still learning the ropes at that time.
Yes.
So how did you all, like when you were in school with Harold at engineering school in 1959, how did you get from that point to Nashville?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, it wasn't a huge class, but I was a cowboy, and only had one type of clothes I generally wore. And then there was this guy that was a little bit older than me and very soft-spoken and very well-dressed and wore a tie. And I just gravitated to Harold. And we had a few beers, and I guess that out of that whole class up there, that was my pal, was Harold, and then to meet up again and just pick it up in Nashville was even better.
That's cool.
And we enjoyed a lot of success, and we're probably each other's cheerleader and proud to see somebody do something,
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
But it was good, and we lived through the Jerry Lee Lewis era, and did I ever tell you about getting the Lion Tamers Award from Billboard?
No.
It was a joke. They did print it up and everything. Kilroy gets Billboard's Lion Tamer. I did multiple albums in 1 year on Billy Joe Shaver, Jerry Lee Lewis, Dean Dillon, and Gary Stewart.
Oh,
Wow.
my goodness.
The Dean Dillon, Gary Stewart Brotherly Love album.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That wore me out. These guys, I weighed like 250 pounds, and they weighed like 125. They made a shell out of me. I was nothing. I mean, I came in one morning. We cut the tracks were really good. Songs were good.
Yes.
And, I'm getting to a Larry Keith story. We talked about him.
Yeah.
And we cut the tracks. Okay, next day we're going to do the vocals. I come in, we're doing it in RCAA, the big room, and Gary's on the couch, and I think he was shooting heroin, I'm not sure, but he did a lot of substance. And he's back on the couch. Dean's doing cocaine, he's scratching walls like a cat, and we're going to do vocal overdubs. I said, boys, we're not doing anything today. I'm calling it off tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, be here on the same drug. Whatever it is, if it's up or be on that, down or be, just be on the same drug. But one scratching walls, one laying on the couch, it ain't gonna work. We ended up, because Dean was not a singer, as we know, he was an incredible writer. Gary had a lot of soul, but he had problems. Then I said, can y'all sing harmony with each other? Oh, Kilroy, can we ever? You bet. Man, that was awful stuff. I mean, it's like cats in a bag just screaming to get out. And finally, I just, okay, that's fine. We went through all, let them scream, boom, boom, boom. And I called Larry Keith. And I said, hey, I need you to come in and do something for me. Sure. And first of all, he was one of the few guys that I knew that could talk that much and still sing in perfect tune. Okay. So he could timbre his voice. It was incredible. I don't know if you know this, how he could timbre his voice to sound like someone. Not imitating him, but the same sound. So he did the harmonies for Dean Dillon and Gary Stewart. And so after the mix and everything, I called him. I said, y'all want to come in and hear the final mix and your harmonies? He said, oh, yeah. So they come in. And Dean said, I told you we'd do those harmonies.
That's great. Oh, my God.
That's a true story. But Larry Keith was incredible.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope he's still living. I don't know.
I don't think he is,
Really?
Eddie. No. He was part of a good band. They had a band one time.
Well, you were
what
telling
band?
me that, and I didn't know it.
What band?
They were called Fallen Rock.
Oh, we've talked about that. Yeah.
The manager was Paul Ritchie.
Origin, yeah.
Yeah. And Larry Keith was in the band, and Jim Hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and
He was a singer.
another guy that was really good backup singer too. I can't remember the other two guys.
But I did not know that. I didn't know that.
The reason I know that is they used the old music mill is where they did the recordings. some of it. And they were always there, and Paul was always with them. And but they were normal all the time.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Wonder why you guys never did anything together. Did y'all ever make
No, we didn't. We
didn't do anything together.
I don't know why. It just never happened. Yeah.
I know that Red Seagull, I was doing Red Seagull for Elektra, and he and his brother wrote a song called Honky Tonks in Moscow. And I really thought that'd be a pretty cool song. And I took it over to Harold when Harold was running Mercury. And he said, you remember that at all? Do you remember me bringing you that song? On Danny Stegall?
Yes, his brother, yes.
Yeah, and
I do remember that.
Yep, and you said, I kind of like that. Why don't you go over to the mill and I'll give you a demo budget and put it down and we'll see how it comes out. And I did. And I brought it to Harold and he said, that's good. He said, let me keep it. He said, I'm looking at one other act I may sign, and if I don't sign this other act, he said, I might do this. And I said, well, that's cool. That's good. Well, obviously it didn't make us because the other one was Achy Breaky Heart. So,
what a terrible choice. I can't believe you did
I should have taken the Honky Tonk in Moscow.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But, yeah.
That was good.
It was different than the Steagulls.
Tell the story about the trying to get your promotion people a boost to get a record on, to get Achy Breaky Heart on a station in Florida.
Yes.
Great story.
Yeah, they've heard that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we've already done that, but good question, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty funny.
It is funny.
It doesn't. Funny. One of those that doesn't run out of funny.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me, though, that while you were running the label, you were still doing promotion, and having come from radio, there's one thing you guys have in common to me that most people that were at the top of labels knew how to do.
Harold and I both have talked that what an asset it was.
Yeah.
It was an asset, definitely.
Radio was what a great training ground.
You'd be able to make those calls.
It was a great training ground, like Harold said, because people don't realize it. First of all, there's something wrong with someone that will talk to a piece of tin for 4 hours. Okay. I mean, I always felt that way. But you get to feel in your audience and what they like. And consequently, I think that carried over, Harold, and I think you'll agree that to our choice of songs, and also when that's done, what to release. What's going to get to the audience? What's going to get them in their stomach? Is the rhythm track going to feel good to them? And it carries over from what records we played on radio.
Well, amen. I got to say, he and I have talked about that because, of course, I didn't come from there. He would talk about people calling in to request songs and saying, well, now, what is it you like about that song? You know, You guys had that window that most of those other people didn't have. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was an asset.
Well, when I would do a record, almost always I would go to Russ because he was doing all the publishing, and I'd say, hey, listen to this. And he would say, well, that doesn't sound like the radio. I said, do you like it? You know, kind of thing. Yeah. And that's what it is.
Sure.
You don't make records thinking about, am I going to get this on? You try to do the best record and a really great song, and it'll go where it's supposed to go.
You're right.
Absolutely.
With some help,
Sure.
Yeah, but understanding that, like we talked about earlier, and you guys having that perspective too, on top of that, back the other way. Most of us didn't have that. I think that was a real plus that you guys had that too.
Well, we all got to be on the same team.
We hope you're enjoying the show. This episode is sponsored by PopChevy.com, Paintsville Tourism, Wild Bill Fireworks, Kent Rose Foundation.
I admire promotion men because
Me too.
it's the hardest job in radio.
Yep. You know, another guy that came out of promotion, a lot of people don't realize, is Mac Davis.
I didn't know that.
Mac was working for Capitol when I was working for Columbia Pictures, Colpix Records. And we'd meet up sometime and share a room, you know, to kind of get a little off our expensive house. And he worked for Capitol, I guess, for a couple of years. I'd run on to him in Atlanta at the radio station or something like that.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, he was always a little cocky, but that's okay.
Hey,
Well, John Fisher came out of promotion,
Yeah,
and he did very well.
Yeah.
The way he was at Motown,
right.
and it started Melodyland,
Mhm.
I didn't know
and
that.
came out of the chute with T.G. Shepherd's Devil in the Bottle.
Devil in the
yeah.
Bottle, yeah.
Big. And he was out of promotion.
Oh, yeah.
T.G. was in promotion
That's why
at
he changed his
RCA.
name.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's why he changed his name, because of that record.
that's right.
His real name is Bill Browder. Elvis, you know, RCA assigned him as Elvis's personal promotion man. He'd only work Elvis's records.
Really?
And so Elvis called him the Good Shepherd of his records.
Wow.
Really?
So that's where the TG comes from.
How
What
about
about
that?
that?
You heard it
for-
first here, folks.
It don't stand for the genius.
Yeah.
Isn't that
We
great?
learned that from Brian.
But TG is he's done well.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's we've got so many people we just talk and talk and talk.
Yeah, man.
I think if anybody came up and said, Kilroy, what were some of the most memorable experiences? There would be so many on just Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, producing him was like,
I can't imagine.
it's like you have to be a psychologist almost, you know,
Yeah.
or try to outfool him.
Yeah.
I'll fool him into doing this,
Wow.
and he'll think it's his idea,
That's right.
you know.
Yeah.
That's right.
But did I tell you about the time George came to the studio, Jones?
No.
Every time I went to go to Lewis, I would spend maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, just getting him straightened out. Because a little bit of what he was doing was fine, but a whole lot of it was just terrible. The boys were getting real hoarse and, you know, just bad deal. Well, I had him straight, and George came by, and it was at Fireside. They had one little studio, one little bathroom, and George was pretty well tooted up, you know. That was there in his bad days. And we're running a song down, and I was telling the guys, I said, "Where's Jerry?" "Oh, he's in the bathroom with George." I said, "Oh, God." So I went in there, and I said, "Jerry, what are you doing in there?" He said, "Oh, George is telling me a joke." And I said, "Let me tell you a joke." And I backed off, and it was not a big door. But I kicked the door down. And I said, "Now there's your joke." And I said, "George," I said, "I'm trying to get this man on record. And I really, really wish you'd just go on, you know." And I don't remember the exact words, but I like George. We were raised in the same part of the country. I've known him since I was a kid. And he went on. But here's what he did that I thought was so nice. He called my office next morning and said, "Kilroy, I apologize. I was out of place coming by there."
Wow.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, man, that is.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Now, I was at the service for Gilley,
yeah,
and your eulogy, I thought, was just really great. And
thank you.
tell us a little about recording and working with Mickey.
Mickey was a jewel. It's like I've always said, if you could take Mickey Gilley's personality, his outlook on life, his business sense, and put it into Jerry Lee Lewis's body, you would have the most incredible talent that God ever put
Oh,
on
man.
earth,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
But because Jerry had a little more natural talent. Mickey had to work at his, and he would be the first to admit it. His idol was his cousin, Jerry Lee Lewis. He loved Jerry. And Mickey was just the most star that I ever met in my life.
Wow.
You know, after he had 6 to 7, 8, 10 #1 records, he'd come to Nashville and he'd check in the Hall of Fame hotel and he'd carry his own little bag and he'd have a mid-sized vehicle and he was just Gilley.
Wow.
And he took a note from Conway. Conway and Loretta took him out when he first, had a couple of hits, so he could get the exposure. And Conway told him, and Gilley listened and always did it. He said, no matter how tired you are, no matter how late it is, sign autographs till the last person leaves.
Wow.
And Gilley did that. But it was not hard for him because Gilley loved people.
Yeah.
He really loved people.
Wow.
And so he was a funny story. He was nervous the first time he recorded in Nashville. And he wanted to rush a little anyway. And then he was a little intimidated. He's in there with, some of the best players in town. And he was not steady, so I sent the second engineer, I don't know if anybody remembers Roy Shockley, worked at RCA.
Yeah.
I gave him some money. I said, go to U-Haul and rent tons of blankets, moving blankets. And I wrapped the piano in those blankets and duct tape. I mean, all you could see were the keys. And I didn't care what it did to the sound of the piano. I just needed Gilley playing. And I moved Larry London out of the drum cage over on one side of Gilley, the whole kit. And Bobby Dyson was on bass. I put him on the other side. I said, now let's play, Mickey. And we say on perfect time.
Wow.
But he was just nervous.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, and he got a lot better.
Yeah.
But Mickey is, the only time Mickey and I ever had any argument whatsoever is, I can't remember the song, but I sent him home with a rough tape. And he called me, and at that time, Mickey would stutter a little if he got excited. He said, we can't put this song out. We can't. And I said, what do you mean we can't put it out? He said, I played it from a neighbor and he doesn't like it. Oh, I kind of got angry. You don't go play your stuff for a neighbor and say, what do you think? Should I put this out?
Yeah.
And it went #1. I can't remember the name of the song.
Now, was Roomful of Roses on Playboy?
Yeah, it was on Playboy. It first came out on Mickey's little label.
That's what I thought.
Down in Houston, yeah. And then
what a good record.
It was. And I took it to LA and remastered it.
Yeah.
And that's all I did to the record. I can't remember where I did it. I can't remember where I did it there in LA, but it sounded a lot better.
Well, at that time, there was not a lot you could do.
No, there wasn't. There really wasn't. Don't you remember, all of us here know, as we graduated, from 4 tracks to 8 tracks and then 16, and then we had 2 48s, 2 24s, one chasing the other, where we had 48 tracks, and then finally we got to... I had to learn to know when to stop producing because it was that automatic deal. I got 4 tracks left. I need something on those. I know I must need something. You had to know when to stop.
Yes.
Well, that's something that the kids today could never understand.
No.
They got billions of them forever, so nobody worries about anything anymore.
Yeah. I always tell people I went to Nashville to work in the rhinestone mines.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So what did you do on the rodeo circuit? Was you a bull rider?
Well, or good, or whatever. No. I worked 3 events. Bull riders, I was much too large. They're average people are actually smaller than average, I guess. The perfect size for any rough stock rider, including bareback riding, saddle bronc riding, bull riding, would be anywhere from 5'8" to 5'10", 160, 165 pounds. And I was a big guy that was 6'4", weighed about 230, 235. So I excelled at steer wrestling, bulldogging, and then roping. But I was a saddle bronc wannabe. I craved them. I loved them. I mean, to get down on a saddle bronc to me was the biggest thrill in the world because you've got in the Northwest where they really use bigger horses. a 1,600-pound horse. And when you get out in the chute and he's quivering, and you know, just a minute, man, there's going to be a big explosion. It's a rush. It really was.
Wow.
But my problem was staying on him for 8 seconds.
I get it.
So somebody said, why do you bulldog? I said, so I can support my bronc riding habit.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't win anything doing that. And I bounced a lot, so I got to thinking in those days, I should have taken a clue and invented the bounce house and made $1 million.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was, I think everyone here has had a blessed life to be able to make a living
Yes.
out of what we love. You know, I've only had 2 loves in my life, and that was the life of the West, rodeo, and music. And I can get to this very day today, I can get, you know, my AirPods or whatever, and not to disturb Liz or something, and just listen to music, and it just, I'm back in that world.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just a special thing. I think that we're all born. You can't teach people music. It's an instinct to me.
Mm-hmm.
People are born with the instinct. I mean, you teach them music, of course, but the instinct of when it feels good, when it's right.
Yeah.
And I remember Jack Clements when he was doing Charlie Pride. Jack was character again.
Yep.
Yeah.
He would just go out into the room and just dance.
Yep.
Because, you know, he talked a lot, and he would just dance until it started feeling good, and he'd say, that's it.
Mm-hmm. He was an Arthur Murray dance instructor. He was.
Was he really?
Yeah,
I did not know
Yep.
that.
Yep.
I
it's
did
true.
not know that.
He
That's
was an incredible human being.
Wasn't he?
Yeah.
Wasn't he? And so interesting and so low key. I never saw him get overly excited or loud about anything. It was always kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you find him that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, again, though, I mean,
I admired him so much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, man. You know, interesting to me that, like you said, and we talked about a couple times on here, the love of that it drove you to do whatever you had to do
Right.
that,
Right.
to make records or write songs, or, you know, we've had this conversation more than times than I can tell you, but it's a common theme. You know, you come out and go, you know, that's all I want to do. You know,
Yep.
I want to bounce on Bronx, and I wanted to do music.
Right.
You know, at any whatever it took.
I love the chase of a song. Oh, that was I love chasing his songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said, and thank God I wouldn't be here today, if I ever turned a song down and heard it on the radio, I'd probably jump out a window. Thank God it never happened. But I really felt like, man, don't miss on this song. I thought I bought a master one time. I'm going to work and listening to WKDA, they were country then, and I heard Heaven's Just a Sin Away. And I said, man, that's like could be a monster. And I called the radio station, and it belonged to a guy out of Chicago,
Right.
a little label that he had.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time,
Ovation.
Ovation, yes, eventually moved to Nashville.
Yes.
But this was in Chicago.
That's right.
This was their first record. And I said, I'll offer you, I said, I'll give you $25,000 for the master. And he said, oh, no. And I thought a minute, I said, boy, I'm going to stick my neck out. This was Playboy, and they did not give me a whole lot of money to play with. And I said, all right, I'll give you 50. And he said, no, I want to keep it on my label. So I was pretty gutty for somebody that was trying to get going to turn down. Because
Yeah, no
that was in
kidding.
the 70s
Yeah.
when that was pretty good money.
Yep.
But I tried to buy that master, but
Wow. That was a big record.
they only had 1 or 2 after that.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't remember anything after that. Just the Kendalls.
Yeah.
Well, they had,
one more.
yeah.
Heaven Just Sent Away.
Oh yeah, the 49ers, or what was it, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that what it was, that record they had.
I don't remember. I really don't.
Sorry,
remember.
I can't recall
Yeah.
it.
Me either.
But that was the only act on that label.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
hired somebody in Nashville, and I hope I don't offend him because I don't
No, I
even know
think
his
there
name.
was another hit on that.
There was another hit,
It was okay.
but I can't recall it.
Yeah.
Yeah, me either.
Old Flames Can't Hold a Candle.
Oh,
to
Joe's
You.
son, that one.
Yeah, was that not on Ovation?
I thought Dolly had that.
Well, she did.
She did.
Yeah,
But Joe's son, I
Joe's
think,
son-
had
oh,
it
did
on
he?
that
I
label.
thought so
Did he?
too. Yeah, I think you're right. I think
Yeah,
you're right about that. Wow,
I didn't know that.
wow.
And then, but they might have had one more too.
Yeah,
But he should have done the deal with you.
Yeah,
yeah,
You know.
but then again, maybe I'd have gotten in trouble over it.
yeah,
Maybe I'd have belted up.
yeah.
But we had
How many things did you do with Jerry Lee?
quite a few. It was off and on with Jerry. Because of label changes and what have you, you know, the Electra things I enjoyed more because we had 39 and Holden was good.
Oh, what a great record.
I really, really thought I had to come up with left field stuff on him. And I thought what would be left field stuff. Who would ever envision Jerry Lee Lewis doing Judy Garland's Over the Rainbow?
Yeah,
And that
was
record,
cool. That was
record
cool.
did well. Jerry played his butt off on that, but we were running it down, typical Lewis, and so everybody get their numbers. And he said, "There's your record, son." I said, "Jerry, we didn't record it."
oh,
He said,
no.
"Oh, you should have got that one." He said, "I'm not going to be able to beat that one." You know, you always go dark. "Yeah, you can do it again." And he did it again. And that was one take other than the rundown.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
But he was, Jerry was just, I hate to use this word, but he was just God-given talent, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
we that's a phrase that burned so many times, said so much, but I quit sending him demos to Memphis because he would never listen to them. So it got to the point now he would come in and say, "Son, what are we recording tonight?" I said, "Well, I've got this for you, and I really think it's good." He said, "Yeah, I like that one." "Okay." And I play him, and "Okay, let me have the words."
Wow,
And he'd go out there, and one time he heard it,
wow.
and that was it.
That's crazy.
It was almost like Pig could hear something and remember all the plays.
Yeah.
Except Jerry made him all his songs. It was almost
Yeah.
like he wrote
Yeah.
them, you know.
That's a real artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And he would just, and then he sometimes, so many times, he would start taking a ride and it would start really getting into some stuff. I'd say, I want to see you get out of this one, killer. And he would.
Wow.
Now you did Faron Young also.
That's another story. There's another story. Bowen's out, we're both at MCA. Bowen was out of town, and he comes back in. He said, "Well, what's been going on?" I said, "I signed Faron Young." He said, "You signed Faron Young?" He said, "Why did you sign that old rascal for?" I said, "Because he still sings really, really good." And he said, "Well, okay." I said, "Oh, I didn't finish the story." He said, "What is the story?" I said, "I gave him $50,000 because Faron really helped me get started.
Wow.
The first time, and I don't know if I shared it with you, when I don't want to bore you guys, but
No.
I was at a rodeo in Arkansas, and all of us here remember atlases. Couldn't get anywhere without an atlas.
Right.
Well, everybody in my hometown said my songs were really good. That was at the filling station at night. And I looked at the atlas, and where I was in Arkansas, Nashville was about an inch and a half away. And I had 2 horses in a trailer. And I said, I'll just go up there and show them my songs. Well, I didn't know anybody, except the name Chet Atkins was in a position as a producer in Nashville. So I went to RCA, and his office was in Old B, the little studio. And I parked back in the back, and I got 2 horses. It's hot. I don't remember whether it was August, July, or what, but it was hot. And Mary Lynch, who ended up marrying Felton Jarvis.
Yes.
Mary was a darling.
Yes.
And I said, I'd like to see Mr. Atkins, please. And she said, well, he's going to be tied up all afternoon or something like that. And I said, well, I've got 2 horses that are hot out there in the parking lot, so I'll have to come back another time and see him. She said, fine. And so as I'm driving out, there's this old house, and it was on 16th, and it said Faron Young Enterprises. Well, at that particular time, Faron was a superstar. I mean, this was in 60, maybe, something like that, 61. I said, well, what the heck? So I pulled up there and I went in. I said, I'd like to see Mr. Young, please. And she said, what for? I said, I'd like to show him some songs. And she said, hold on. And all of a sudden, standing right in front of me is Faron Young. And I said, oh my God. I mean, I loved Faron. He was singing, you know. And he said, well, get your ass in here. So I got in there and I sang him 3 or 4 songs. He said, boy, those ain't worth SHIT. I go, oh, okay. And he said, but you need to move to Nashville. And when you move up here, you come see me. And Sue Brewer was sitting there, Sue. And I won't say what came from there. But anyway, I left and went back to Texas. And I dwelled on it. And about 6 months later, I decided to move to Nashville. And I worked in radio some down in there. In the meantime, off that ticket, first class license.
Yeah.
And talk about, look, everybody's got these stories. But they come to Nashville and they sleep in the dumpsters or they sleep on somebody's couch. I asked a cab driver, I had $40 and got a room at a cheap hotel. And next morning I asked a cab driver, I said, what radio stations everybody listen to? He said, oh, WKDA. I said, how much would we charge to take me there? He said, $3. I said, okay. And I walked in and the first person I met was Donna Hilley. She was the receptionist.
Wow.
And Jack Stapp owned most of the station. Smokey Walker, who was married to Joe Walker, first CMA lady.
Yeah.
He was a program director. So I told him she said, you need to see the program director. And Smokey came out and I visited with him, told him where I worked. He said, let me go get Jack. They had just fired their morning man. I went to work the next day.
Wow.
Talk about a blessing.
Boy, no kidding.
I didn't have to sleep in a dumpster or anything.
Fate.
Yeah,
man.
Another one of them God deals.
That's it.
Yes, but the 2 people you mentioned, Jack Stapp started Tree with Buddy Killen, one of the biggest post companies in the world.
Yeah.
Donna Hilley ran it
Right.
for years later. They're all people that went on to do huge things.
I know.
Pretty amazing.
Oh, it is. And remained friends with those. Jack and I stayed in touch up until the very end.
Wow.
Okay, you want to get down to some slick business?
Let's go.
Go for it.
Jack started Tree Music. Jack Stapp only. First copyright, he ended up buying it back from A. Cup Rose, the Chattanooga Shoeshine Boy.
Wow.
So that kind of got it kicked off. Then he hired Buddy Killen to walk around with a little wallen sack like everybody did in those days, playing songs. And they signed a few writers. As it grew and Jack got more involved in it, he gave Buddy 50% of it. I think it was 50%. But there was a clause in there that if something happened to either one, they could buy the other ones out from the estate at a given price. Well, as the company grew, the worth of the company, the value of the company grew and grew and grew, as you know. So Jack dies. Buddy doesn't have quite that much money. So he hires Larry Butler and Eddie Kilroy. Okay. You go over there. Butler was running hot with Kenny Rogers. I had a couple acts. I don't know what I was doing then. And he went to ASCAP and said, look, I've heard Butler's in there. He's going to be doing all these songs. Kilroy's over here. He's going to be doing all these songs. I want to get an advance. He got the advance from ASCAP to buy Jack's estate out.
Wow.
Pretty slick.
It is.
But that's how he ended up with Tree.
Wow. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yes, it is.
That's creative.
Yeah.
We were at a lot of tree stories. I wasn't there when they were doing the first remodeling, but they said they found, when they started tearing walls out, they found more good pot and stuff in those walls.
I believe that.
It was funny. It was cool though. And Donna was still there, and Butler stayed about 3 months, and I think I stayed about 6.
Wow.
But wow. But the history, and I wanted to be on the second floor where all the writers were, and I was. And then one day Donna called and said, "Buddy wants y'all up on the 3rd floor." So I had to go to the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. I mean, at that time, Tree had so many great writers, and you're sitting right in the nest in the middle of those, and that's where I wanted to be.
Yep.
Yeah, they had the best at one time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Curly and that bunch writing over there, and I think Braddock was still there. I know.
Yeah. Roger Miller was there. Mel was there.
Mel was there. Yeah. One night, Larry Butler had a birthday party for Buddy Killen out at his place. Larry had a place on not Murfreesboro Road, another road going south out of Nashville.
Nolensville
Road, yeah. And it had been a horse farm or something, had a big barn. So we had the Roger Miller story, another one, only Roger's Mind, which you appreciate so much. Everybody does. They had a belly dancer. You know how you get for kids, you get a clown, and she was an attractive girl, obviously black hair, and she had a little top on and a real low cut hula girl skirt, and I couldn't help but notice that she had little black moles on her tummy, several, and I just saw them, and she was dancing right there in front of Roger and I. And I said, "Man, she got little moles on her tummy." And Roger said, "Kilroy, I just like to go to bed with her. You'd be up all night swatting them flies." But it's so Roger, as you know, and we all know, his whole lens was different.
Oh, yeah.
Optically, he didn't see things like we saw then.
Oh, yeah.
But swatting them flies.
That's funny. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he really was.
How long did you work in Nashville?
Hold on, 80, 90. When the music changed, I think I may have shared this with Harold before, I'm not sure, but I've always believed that you had to recognize a hit song. If you didn't hear the hit song, you might not want to be a producer. And the music was changing. But I heard this one song, and God, I wish I could remember the name of it. And I was going to the office again, and it was awful in my mind. But I knew just by hearing people talking, the buzz going around, that it was a huge record. And I said, if that song ever came into my office, I would never, ever record it, which means I don't belong in this business. So, I mean, that really was the deciding point.
Wow.
So I had a little acreage in the hill country of Texas, Bandera. And I called Bruce Hinton, who had been my West Coast promotion man for Playboy. And Bruce, when he moved to Nashville, we still were real good friends. And I said, "Bruce, I'm leaving town." I said, "If I go to the studio, I don't have a clue what to record." He laughed. He said, "Nobody else does." I said, "I'm going to Bandera and I'm just going to rope. My horse is pretty good on his game." And he said, "No, you can't do that. Somebody in Washington needs you." And I said, "Well, no, it's not G.W. Bush." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Nobody has ever heard of it but it's going to be big. He said XM satellite radio. And he said they don't have anybody that knows anything about country. He said, can I have them call you? And I said, well, yeah, but I don't know what this deal's all about. And so they did. Make a long story short, they brought me up there. And like all of us here, we're a bit jaded. Yeah, they're going to show us something. I walked in that building and I said, oh my God. 82 digital studios in one building. Star Wars, the operations center looked like Star Wars. And they had yet to launch the first satellite. And so I'm sitting there with them and I'm thinking, how do I negotiate a price with these people, you know? And they said, we want you to build a country channel, traditional country. And we're going to call it Hank's Place, which is another story. And will you come up here for this amount of money? And I went, yeah. It was equivalent to what I would have made if I was like vice president of A&R at RCA or something. Really good money. And a relocation package, it was incredible. So I was there doing the architecture on my channel for 3 months before the first satellite was launched.
Wow.
And
you remember what year that was?
Yeah, 2001.
2001, okay.
Yeah. I remember distinctly because I said, I'm riding the subway and I've got a tool briefcase, Western tool briefcase, and I'm dressed like I'm dressed now. And this lady said, are you with the administration? And at first it didn't dawn on me what she was talking about. I said, I beg your pardon? She thought I was going to work for George Bush, you know.
Oh.
So I said, no, ma'am. And we went there and did very, very well. And we had to live in Virginia in order to have room for the horses on cheap property at only 100,000 an acre.
Yeah.
We had a very little place. Our place was not very big. But we had our horses, and Liz and I lived out there, and then I had just about had it. I couldn't take the Washington, D.C., and the place was cool, but every channel, the program director had to live the life of the channel. Well, since it was a beer joint channel, it fit me well. And my channel, and then they'd have the reggae channel, and they had the guy that played bass for Bob Marley, and you know, and so everybody had, it was a conglomeration of distinct personalities, but I couldn't take the DC deal, and it was just awful. So I called Willie, and I said, Willie, you're doing a lot of deals here with XM. Tell them you need me in Texas. Well, you can't say no to Willie because he's too nice, and they needed him. So he said, I need Kilroy down here. So those rascals, one of the bedrooms, they put a beautiful studio in at the ranch.
Wow.
And for a year and a half, or almost two, Liz and I'd get up at 5:30 in the morning and watch local news, drink coffee. I'd go in at 6, go in there at 10 o'clock, 10:15, I was at the barn.
Wow.
And then here comes Sirius. And Sirius bought them out, and they bought my contract out, and we ended up here, and that's another story. But XM was quite an experience.
Yeah,
that's cool.
The programmers there were, if you listen to the 60s on 6, you swore you were in the 60s.
Yep.
Did you ever listen to them?
Oh, yeah.
50s on 5. I mean,
Yep.
you were back in the 50s, you know? I mean,
Yep.
It was like the programmers came from that pocket of music, and they knew what to do.
Yep.
So that was, yes, that was good. I've had a great life. All of us have, because we had music in our life.
Yeah, man.
And I think other than our families and people that we love, that if you took music away from us, there wouldn't be a lot left.
No,
you know?
true.
Nope. I wish you could remember what song it was that made you think, I got to get out of here.
I wish I could too. I wish I could too. I've thought about it. I think I shared that with Harold. it was just an awful sounding record, and it was just like, I don't know. It's something I wouldn't even dream of putting on the radio. But then again, I think it's an insult to homeless people to say that the artists that we see on these shows are dressed like homeless people. You know?
I know it.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you're doing now.
Right now, I've never in my life not worked at something. And I came up here to put another story, I don't bore you guys to death, to put an internet radio station together for one of the bigger trucking companies that I had become friends with because he was a listener at XM. Wonderful guy. And he would come down to the ranch, he and his wife, and spend a couple of days with us. And we'd come up here, stay with them a day or two. And he said one day, he said, you know, I hear most of the people are getting their music on the internet. I said, I think a lot of them are, Don. He said, what would you think about moving to Oklahoma City and putting up an internet radio station for a recruiting tool? I said, Don, that's going to cost you a lot of money. He said, that doesn't bother me. Trust me, the man's got a lot of money. So I said, well, let me talk it over with Liz and see. And the ranch was kind of wearing us out because I couldn't get help. We were running a lot of horses. And I talked to Liz about it. I said, you want to do this? She said, why not? I said, I always want to work. Well, after 4 years, this was before he was late on that idea. Today it would have worked. But this was before all companies gave unlimited data. So the drivers, truck drivers and so forth, they didn't want to burn their data up listening. So I guess after 4 years, there may have been 20,000 people listening, maybe 10. So Don and I were very close friends, still are to this very moment. And I said, Don, this isn't working. Let's just shut her down. He said, you really want to do it? I said, Don, it's not working. And I don't think any of us want to continue to do anything that isn't working. Mm-hmm. And so I sat around the place for a while and I said, heck, everybody's doing a podcast. I'll do a podcast. And so I'm doing a podcast and it keeps me sitting in the chair all day.
Yeah.
Tell us the name of it and more people can find it at.
Wait a minute, what is the name of that thing?
Kilroy's Heroes.
Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends and Behind the Music.
Cool.
There's some stories that go on. Mostly, it's not about the records near, but it's about the friends that I've had. And, you know, I could do a whole show on Harold. And I have, matter of fact. And visiting with people that, telling stories that, such great stories I have with Waylon and Jerry and Mickey. And Mickey was best man at my first wedding. And mother fainted and I was only 18. And I was embarrassed too because the girl I married, she was old enough where she could just go get one. I had to get my mother to sign for me. Rather humiliating.
That's great.
Lake Charles, Louisiana. And Mickey and I had a little trio. I played bass, Mickey and piano, and a drummer, Kermit Ryder, at a little lounge. And then I was working at the local radio station, KLOU.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's what I'm doing now is we're doing a podcast.
Cool.
And it's interesting to do, but then you look back and see what it's doing. And then you look at other people too, and I know you're doing the same thing and you're going to be successful at it. And you look and say, well, let's see, competition's not heavy out there. Who else doing them? Oh, yeah. Some of those Fox people are doing it, so that's no competition.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you start looking around at these things and say, wait a minute. And then you see one on there, a travel one that's got 9 million viewers. And he's talking about something. But it's interesting because on there now is something for everybody.
Yep. Yep.
But it's a pleasure being with y'all today, each and every one of you.
Is your podcast on all the podcast platforms and on YouTube?
The platforms, YouTube and all of them. And that's interesting. Warning, you probably know this. I'm thinking on that first one, okay, I'm going to talk about Mickey Gilley. I know you have to pay for music, okay? But I'll just have Mickey Gilley song playing so faint. You can hardly hear it, and there's only going to be about 32 bars, maybe 64. That'd be okay. And none of this be a little Loretta Lynn. When they pulled them all just like that, they caught it.
Yep.
I didn't think they would catch that little faint in the background under my talking, but they got to have a way of identifying them.
Yep.
So I had to pull it off, strip the music, and put it back on. It's really expensive to get the music.
Yeah, I know.
More money than I have.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's interesting to me that the fact that they could do that, but the PROs can't always tell why you didn't get paid for this, why you didn't get paid for that.
Have you ever done an audit on the company? No. I haven't either. Jack Johnson was Charlie Pryor's manager. And Charlie was really hot. And he did an audit on RCA and found $250,000 for Charlie. And it wasn't that they were trying to steal from Charlie. It was a clerical deal. They'd put a decimal in the wrong place or something. But the problem I always found with doing an audit, first of all, I didn't figure they owed me any money, didn't sell enough records. Second of all, if you have to pay for the audit if you can't find any money.
Yep. Yeah. I've heard some stories about audits, but yeah. Wow.
But sometimes they're
Alabama's the only act I had that ever audited the label.
Did they? Did they find anything?
Yeah.
And it was probably not intentional.
I don't think so.
No. Companies like RCA and some of those aren't.
But that was through RCA too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's just clerical a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they probably got so many.
Yeah, and they're doing so many records, you know. Alabama.
And it's a long, drawn-out system, you know, with the recoupment and all the stuff that's involved, the promotional items.
One other story I found from an old guy. His name was Chris Sonner. And the first record job I had with a major was with Colpix Records, which is Columbia Pictures deal.
Yeah.
And he had gone back to the days of selling records when they traveled on Greyhound buses. Well, remember when you would get paid on 90% of 100%? Remember those clauses?
Because of breakage, wasn't it?
It was breakage. Not many people know it. Put in. Nowadays, they would say, "Oh, it's for all the promotion records we sent," and that, you know, when we went 45 days. But it was for breakage in 78s. And I didn't know that, and he told me about
78s, yeah.
Yeah, they put in, they allowed 10% for breakage and shipping, 78s.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Well, when I did my first record deals in the 90s, you know, they had them in all those clauses still for that. That's how I learned about that.
Yeah.
You know, and Sony said, you know, that's for breakage, you know, even though we're not really breaking anything anymore. Right. And Warner Brothers said, when I did a Warner Brothers deal, they said, well, it's for breakage, but, you know, there's no breakage anymore, but we're going to charge in. We don't care. You know, that's kind of how it is, you know. Okay.
Yeah, they put it off as promotion.
Yeah.
That was promotion.
Yeah.
I did my Playboy deal. Luckily, I knew about it, so I had it 100% on 100%.
Cool.
But had I not ridden with that old record salesman, I would never have known that probably.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got one last question about Playboy. So you were there 6 years, you said?
7, I think.
Okay, 7. How many acts did you end up signing before it was all over?
Not very many. Maybe 6.
Who all did you have?
Gilley, of course, Borgia.
Yeah, right.
Barbie Benton.
Yeah.
A guy by the name of Chuck Price. I signed him when this outlaw deal became.
Chuck Price. I remember Chuck.
I signed him because the outlaw deal was coming on, I said, if they're going to sign outlaws, I'm going to sign a real one. Well, he was playing pool in Conroe, Texas with a black guy, and the black guy pulled a knife on him, so he took a pool cue and beat his head off, killed him. I said, now there's an outlaw.
No kidding.
Harold had one.
Who'd you have?
Marlowe.
Oh yeah, Marlowe Tackett.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
Wow.
Had him on RCA for about 15 minutes.
Didn't he have a nightclub somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pikeville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
I met
Was
him
a pretty
one day.
good singer, man.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Cut a Jerry Chestnut song on him.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
4 in the morning.
4 in the morning?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I met him one time. He seemed like a nice guy. Was he a little wild? Wasn't he?
He was an outlaw for sure.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that.
Well, he had a, what do you call it? Discipline problem.
Oh, okay.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, he left us though.
Yeah. Yep. I got one last question.
Go ahead.
What do you have a favorite record you made? Once you,
Boy.
I mean, of all these, I know it's hard, but this may be my
It
favorite.
is hard.
Yeah. I've asked you that several times.
Yeah, it's hard.
You named yours like that.
Yeah, but
Boy,
You'd already
I
prepped
made
for it.
several. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, me too.
See, different records did
Sure.
different things for
Right,
me.
Yep.
right.
I get
I
it.
think because of Lewis's performance over the Rainbow may have been one of my
That was a
favorite.
good one.
His piano rides on that were incredible.
Yeah.
It always stands out to me, and not like you. There's several. It depends on the direction you were going, what kind of mood you were in. Oh, believe it or not, there was a Louise Mandrell record. You take her vocal off and listen to the track. Too Hot to Sleep.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You did, how many, did you do 1 or 2 records?
3 albums with her. I did 3 with her.
3? I did 1 with her. And one of the most interesting things about Louise Mandrell was she was dedicated
Oh, yeah.
and a hard worker. And when we finished the session, there were some vocal things I wanted to work on with her. So I says, we need to come back in and I want to do some vocals and we'll pick the best of the best. What time you want to do that? See, our sessions are 10, 2, and 4. I mean, 10, 1, and
Right.
4. Is it 4 or 5?
Yeah.
10, 1, and 5. And she says, well, I prefer to sing at 8 a.m. in the morning. I said,
Wow.
what? I said, most girls I know sing at 2 a.m. in the morning. And she said, no, I want to. So we went in the studio at 8 o'clock and she knocked them out in no time.
Really?
Wow.
I had trouble with the vocals, maybe because I didn't do them early enough.
Yeah, there you go.
You got to get up.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting.
I did those 3 albums with her, and worked with Joe Galante to get good budgets.
Yeah.
So the phone rings and it's Joe, and he said, Eddie, I'm in a meeting. I just stepped out to call you, and what you say will depend on whether Louise stays on RCA or not. And I said, what is it, Joe? He said, can you do the next album on her for $50,000? I said, Joe, if the one I did for 100 didn't hit, I know the one for 50 is not going to. And he said, okay, bye. And then I think RC did one later on her.
That might have been the one I did
Or you may have done it. I don't know.
because I co-produced it with Mark Wright, and he was pretty tight with RCA at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Bradley was such a fun guy.
Yeah.
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 I don't know if the guys know about it or not, but everybody knows Tony Brown. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows Tony. He's a little guy. I don't know how tall Tony is, but he's certainly not any taller than 5'2". And he may be crowding to 5 feet. I don't know. He's a pretty small guy.
Pretty short.
Yeah. Well, Bradley hired him as head of A&R. Mm-hmm. And Bradley didn't care if the sun didn't come up in the morning. And so Bradley had all the furniture legs cut off, like 2 feet or 8, off all the chairs and the desks. And so he had all these little bitty miniature chairs and offices when Tony Brown walked into his office the next day.
How did Tony react?
I don't recall.
That's funny.
Bradley was up there. Then I did one more boring story because I love it. John Anderson had swinging and Norro did it on him and so forth, so on Warner Brothers. Then Bowen comes in and they had an album done, I guess, Leftover. It's a good album. And Bowen calls him in and he's doing his thing about, I can do this with you, and you know, this on this album right here should be done differently. And I just really think that if you're going to stay with this label, you have to do another album with me producing it, you know, because this album is just below par. And Anderson said, you know, them people down the street right there that has that little dog holds her head crooked, they really like it.
Holds his little head.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, man.
I sure have enjoyed being with you guys. Thank you so much.
It's been a great event.
My brothers.
Thank you so much.
Brothers,
what a
my
pleasure.
brothers.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Mr. Wade.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Behind the Shed. Special thanks to our guests today, Eddie Kilroy, and hosts Harold Shedd, Russ Zavitson, and Wade Smith. Today's podcast was filmed at Curly's Cabin on the Cimarron River in Oklahoma. Behind the Shed podcast was created by Wade Smith, produced by Russ Zavitson and Wade Smith, and recorded in Nashville, Tennessee. Camera, audio, video, and editing by Denise Zavitson and Russ Zavitson. Music written and composed by Russ Zavitson. You can contact the show via email at behindtheshed@gmail.com. You can visit our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Behind the Shed. If you would like to support the show in any way, please visit our Patreon page at Behind the Shed. For sponsorship opportunities, contact us at behindtheshed@gmail.com. Tune in next week as we go behind the shed. We hope you're enjoying the show. This episode was sponsored by PopChevy.com, Paintsville Tourism, Wild Bill Fireworks, and the Kent Rose Foundation.